folks. Bit of a random one this. As a counsellor, which I am, you sometimes get invited in these kind of weird events, and this is one of them. So I've been invited to look around Burnham Beeches on this snazzy tractor. So Burnham Beeches is really interesting. It's a massive piece of like green space woodland, site of special scientific interest and all of this in Buckinghamshire, but it's owned by the City of London Corporation. I understand, I need to check this, but someone once told me that it's actually bigger than the City of London, which is quite interesting, and 30 miles away from the City of London. But it's quite interesting because what they do is they bring a load of councillors out, primarily from London, to have a look at it. And they take us around, and it's actually quite in-depth. I went on one last year, and it's quite an in-depth look at some of the conservation stuff that's going on, some of the work that's going on, that's amelioration work or anything like that, anything they're doing to kind of protect the wildlife in the area. But I find it quite fascinating that you've got these huge swathes of green space out in the green belt that's owned by London. And I don't really understand the historical significance of that. I should look it up, really. In fact, I'm going to look it up and put some sort of link into the bottom of this email, but I just like the little tractor. So I'll try and get some footage while we're on it and add it to this. That was actually quite interesting, and there were a couple of things in there that surprised me. One of them was about how they strike a balance between their priorities and local priorities. So it turns out that in the area where we are, there are certain planning restrictions. So, for example, any property that's developed or redeveloped within up to 400 metres from here can only be replaced for a like-for-like number of units. You can't increase the number of units. Beyond that, between 400 metres and 5.6 kilometres, any development comes with a levy, a kind of community infrastructure levy type payment that goes towards the upkeep of this site. Now that will put pressure on built up areas not far away. So for example, Slough actually falls within the 5.6 kilometres, and which is a very, very built up area that has real housing shortage due to it being kind of overdeveloped within its own boundaries. And the existence of this site is actually putting pressure on housing on there, which is quite weird. And okay, yeah, it will generate a community infrastructure payment of some description, but that's a community infrastructure levy that won't go to work with that community. It's a payment that will go to work towards the environmental upkeep of this area. So how you strike that balance between the priorities of the environment and the priorities of the conservationists and the people who are responsible for here, and the priorities of the people in, say, Slough, who want to house residents, is very, very difficult. And we really need to work together with organisations and different stakeholders to make sure that everyone's kind of getting what they want out of the situation without it becoming some kind of standoff or battle. But it's very, very difficult. I think it surprises me how many pressures there are on housing. It's not just a matter of land being available or money being available, but there are lots of pressures that perhaps I wouldn't have considered. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I don't know how you solve that. I suppose it has to be done through diplomacy or something, or something like that. But everyone has differing priorities, and they don't always match. They don't always overlap, and they might compete. So I've got to go because the guys were waiting to lock the gate, and I'm actually lost. I'm literally lost in the woods somewhere because I walked away to do this. So I'll see you eventually. Bye.